All right, well, welcome to the presentation today. I'm excited that you could join us. My name is Julie Fainter. I'm the success coach at the Fauquier campus of Lord Fairfax Community College. And I am going to enter my email address in the chat in case you want to copy it. You're always welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions, because I know that college can be a little bit confusing to navigate, and now I'm trying to navigate my slideshow and I am not having great success. Let's see here. How do I advance it? There we go. All right, so we know that the transition to college can be a little bit confusing. It can feel a little bit like the image you see here on the screen. There's lots of terminology that maybe you're not familiar with and processes that you might not really understand. So I know that I won't answer all your questions today, but definitely copy or write down my email address. And you can always, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. If I don't know the answer, I can connect you with somebody who does, and we can help you so that you can keep moving forward on your journey. And as Chris posted in the chat, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to pop your question in the chat. And Chris, if I don't see it, you can interrupt me. But we'll try to answer the questions that you have as we go along. But to get started, I wanted to get a little bit of a better idea about who's on the call today. So to do that, we're going to use the annotation feature in Zoom. So you should have a toolbar. For me, it's at the top of my screen. Yours would be either at the top or the bottom that has the annotate tool showing there. So to use the annotation feature, you click on annotate, which is marked as number 1 on the screen. And then we're going to use the stamp. So you would hover over where it says stamp at number 2. And then that is going to pop up a little toolbar, and you have 6 different options of what stamp you want to use. So pick the one you like best and click on it, and then click anywhere that you want on the screen. So I'm doing the red hearts. And there we go. Somebody's got a gold star. Awesome. But like anywhere on the screen, you can make your mark. And we're going to use that to go through the next few slides. So I'll be able to clear the screen, but you guys can try it out. Try out your stamp, see how it works. But when you're ready to close it, which is not yet, I'll tell you when we're finished with it, you would just click that little red X, and that would get rid of the annotation bar for you, and you would get back to your regular mouse. So I'm going to clear all the drawings, and we're going to go to the first screen that I have here with some questions. So why am I having such problems advancing my slides? There we go. All right. So the first question, we're going to see about your parents' educational journey. Did your parents go to college? Because it's really hard to know the rules of college if you're the first person in your family to go to college. So again, using that annotation feature, click on which box best represents you. So for me, neither of my parents went to college. Anybody else going to use the annotation? Show me what you've got there. I will give you a little more time. Okay, so we have a few other people that have used the annotation feature. So if you selected one of these 3 boxes, you are considered a first-generation college student. And that just means that both of your parents do not have a bachelor's degree. And if that's the case, then you would qualify for the TRIO program if you're at the Middletown campus, or if you're at the Fauquier campus, reach out to me if you have any questions, and I can help you navigate through your college journey. So I'm going to clear this screen, and then we will go on to the next slide. And now we are going to see when you graduated from high school. So again, if I'm the one answering this question, I graduated from high school way before 2010, but I know a lot of you are much more recent high school graduates. So let me know when you all graduated. All right, so I got somebody who's joining me there and graduating from high school before 2010. We have somebody from 2015 to 2019. Awesome. So the thing to remember is that college is very different from high school. So whether you did well or whether you did poorly in high school is really not a good indicator of how successful you're going to be in college. So you have a clean slate, basically. It's a chance to start over, and you can just have a fresh start and begin your college journey at an even space. The third thing we're going to take a look at is if you know your career direction. So have you figured out what you want to be when you grow up? That's the question lots of people ask, right? Oh, good. So it looks like some of you have a solid career goal, so that's really exciting. I am a big proponent in knowing where you're going. That can help make a lot of decisions a lot easier. All right. Oh, somebody has no clue, but I can help you with that too. So awesome. So I'm going to clear the drawings, and now we're finished with the annotation feature. So if you want to close out your, with the little red X there in the corner, we are finished with that. So if you need some help in figuring out a career path for you, something that would fit you well, LFCC has a career exploration brochure that you can work through. So it's actually pretty interesting. You work through your career family tree, and if you've never done that before, it can be really, really interesting to see if there are jobs that sort of have been held by several people in your family. Because you want to make sure that the career direction that you're choosing is something that is right for you and that you want, and that you're not just following in the path that other people expect for you. So, so that can be an interesting exercise to go through. And also in the brochure, the career exploration brochure, you do a really quick assessment that tells you what your Holland code is. And the Holland code is what the majority of career assessment tools are based on. It's basically just a measure of your interest level in the 6 broad areas into which jobs are classified and people are classified. And then it shows you jobs. It helps you to find jobs that would be a good fit for your Holland code. So if you'd like to work through that brochure, you can send me an email and ask me to mail it to you, and I would be happy to do that. The other option that we have, if you're still trying to figure out the direction that you want to go in as far as a career, is as an LFCC student, you have free access to the U Science Career Assessment. And that is a very robust online tool, and it matches you with jobs that would be a good fit for you. It's kind of like eHarmony, but it's for careers. This is a longer test. It takes about 90 minutes, but it's 11 separate assessments. So you can do 1 or 2 at a time and spread it out over a few days or a few weeks. And then when you finish that last assessment, it will show you the careers that are a good match for you. And you can sort them in a number of different ways. Overall fit, aptitude fit. This is actually what came back for me as an aptitude fit. So apparently I would have made a good engineer, but I did not know that at the time. So here I am. But it can be a good way to sort of expand the careers that you're looking at and find ones that really speak to you and that you're interested in and want to explore more. So if you're interested in taking that assessment, you can send me an email and I can get that link sent out to you. When you do have that career, the clear direction for where you want to go in the future, it makes a lot of the decisions that you need to make now a lot easier because you know what that end goal is. So one of the ways that can help is you can do backward planning, which is where you start with your end career goal in mind, and then you look backwards at the steps and milestones that you'll need to reach in order to be able to get that career. So let's say that I do want to be an engineer and I want to come to Lord Fairfax for 2 years and then transfer to Virginia Tech and then get a job at a certain engineering company. I can sort of research those jobs, see what degree would be the best fit for me, mechanical engineer, electrical engineer. And then I can also see if I want to use the guaranteed admissions agreement to Virginia Tech, I would need to look that up and see what specific requirements I would need to meet in order to qualify for the guaranteed admissions agreement. And if you're planning to transfer from Lord Fairfax to a four-year university, you definitely want to look up the guaranteed admissions agreement for that school. And you can find that by going to the LFCC website, and in the search bar, just enter guaranteed admissions agreements, and that will bring you to the page that will show you the guaranteed admission agreements we have in place with the different schools throughout the state. And then you can see if there's specific classes you need to take or certain grades you need to get in certain classes. But also when you know your end goal, you can sort of plan how many classes you need to take each semester. So an associate's degree is usually around 60 credits, which means that generally you need to take 15 credits per semester in order to graduate in 2 years. But maybe your degree is 64 credits or 65 credits. So you need to figure out where you're going to fit those extra credits in. Maybe you would take a class over a summer, or maybe you would take 18 credits one semester. But backward planning can be a really helpful tool to make sure that you stay on track and that you're able to reach those timeline goals that you have set for yourself of when you want to graduate and when you want to transfer to a four-year school. All right, so now we're going to do one more activity before we launch into the next section. So when I advance to the next slide, it's going to contain the numbers from 1 to 50, and your task is going to be to find them in order. So you'll find number 1, and then number 2, number 3, number 4, and so on. So I'm going to set a timer for 30 seconds. And when I move to the next slide, you'll see how many you can find in that time. So I'm setting the timer and ready, go. Okay, stop. So in the chat, enter the highest number you got to. All right, 14, 13. So that was pretty hard, wasn't it? I mean, the numbers are all over the place. There's lots of numbers. So we're going to do this one more time. I'm going to reset my timer, but this time I'm going to tell you the pattern to look for, and we'll see if it's easier. So this time what you're going to do, we've got it divided into 4 boxes. So number 1 is going to be in the upper right-hand box. And then for the other numbers, you just go clockwise 1 box, and clockwise 1 box, and clockwise 1 box, and you keep counterclockwise, sorry, and see how far you get. So I'm setting the timer for 30 seconds and go. Okay, and stop and enter in the chat the highest number you got to this time. Okay, all 32, 27. So that was a lot easier, right? So it's much easier when you know the rules, and that is really the whole thing about college. College is a game you can win if you know the rules. So that's what we're talking about here. We're going to share some of those hidden rules with you, the things that you're expected to know when you come to college, but nobody ever tells you. And if you don't know them, you're at a disadvantage because things are much harder than they need to be, or much harder than they are for the people who do know what the rules are. So again, we'll go through some of them today, but the list is really too long to go over in any one hour session. So if you come across other hidden rules, send me an email so that I can share them with other students, because we want to help other students to have an easier journey as well. But the most important thing that you need to realize about college is that you're the one that's responsible for your learning. The instructors are here to help you, but this is not like high school. You're going to need to put in a lot more time and energy to do the reading, to research, and to study in order to learn the material. And the payoff is reaching your career goal, which is worth it, but it's going to take a lot of work on your part. So you just need to be ready for that. And time management is a crucial part of this. Having an academic planner, it is going to be your new best friend. And we have these available for you at the Fauquier campus. They're going to be in the new student welcome bags that will be available in August. But if you're not going to be able to come by and pick one of those up, just send me an email and ask me to mail one to you, and I will mail you one of our academic planners. Put your address in the email so I'm sure that I'm sending it to the right place. So we're going to go through a little bit of what is in the academic planner. If you want to use your own planner, that works too, but you definitely need some type of planner to keep track of everything. And I know this slide is a little bit busy, but we'll go through it piece by piece. So, so in the academic planner that we have available for you, there is a page for each day, and each page is going to have a whole week's worth of days. It will be Monday through Sunday, because for most online classes, you get your assignments usually on a Monday, and then it's due usually on a Sunday night. So that time frame kind of works, and you can plan out your week for how you're going to get the assignments done. So the idea is that you want to, I know that the lines are very, very small in the academic planner, but it's not like you'll be entering something on each line. So what you'll be doing is kind of like this example on the right, where you block off chunks of time in your schedule with the activities that you're going to be doing. So this sample student that we're looking at goes to the gym in the morning, and then he has a Zoom class for English that is virtual, but it's at a specific time. So he does that from 9 to 10:15 on whichever day this happens to be. And then he has a work shift. He works from noon to 4. And then he has plans for dinner and a movie with his friends tonight. And that's important too, to make sure that you do plan in time for some fun things, because otherwise, what's the point? But then you can see that in between these times that are sort of like, you know, you need to be doing these things, there's free time. And during these free time periods, you need to block off times for studying. And you want to do this in maybe an hour increments. I mean, like if it's more than that, you're not going to be able to focus for the whole time. The thing that you'll notice about this is that for every study block that has been put in this schedule, there's a specific thing that this student wants to accomplish during that time. So the first study block, he's going to read his history chapters and take notes. Then he's going to work on the speech for his speech class. Then he's going to work on his ITE assignment, and then he's going to review for his math quiz. So you want to be sure that you have a specific plan for each chunk of time, because otherwise it's easy to get distracted and not accomplish what you were looking for. The other thing that's included in the academic planner is this visual progress tracker. So it shows you which week of the semester you're in. So the light gray shaded boxes, and I know it's kind of hard to see because it's a very light gray. So this student is in week 7. So they've already spent the first 6 weeks of their semester. The empty boxes are the amount of time they have left. And it's important to keep an eye on how much time you have left, because what happens with a lot of students is that they run out of time. So you still have a lot of projects, but you don't have enough time left to get them done because that planning didn't happen early enough, or the time management didn't happen well enough for you to be able to get all of that fit in. So the visual reminder of how much time you have left can be a very helpful thing, because you don't want to be that person that runs out of the semester before you get all your work submitted, because that will obviously negatively impact your grade. The other thing that I really like to see students do is to set a goal for each class. And this is in the academic planner too. It's kind of on a separate sheet, so it's not quite this crazy busy on each page. So for this student, they're taking 5 classes, and they have a different goal for each one. And you do want generally a different goal for each one, because each class is going to have a different level of importance for you and for your future. So for the English class for this student, they want to get a B so that the course will transfer to Mason under the guaranteed admissions agreement. For some classes, you just want to learn skills that will help you in your future. So for the communication class, this student wants to gain confidence with public speaking. For the computer IT essentials class, they want to become more proficient in Excel because that's a good business skill to have, something you can put on your resume. It's something employers are looking for. For the math class here, you see they just want to get through it because this is the only math class they need and they just want to pass so they never have to see math again. And this student wants to be a history teacher. So for the history course, the goal there is to learn as much as possible from that instructor because that instructor could be a very important mentor for this student moving forward. And that instructor might be able to provide some really good advice and recommendations on the best ways to move forward with, your plan to become a teacher, things that you want to keep in mind when you're teaching students. There's all kinds of things you could learn from an instructor like that. So, so it's a good idea to try to network and create relationships in those classes that are really important to what you're trying to do with your future career. All right. The academic planner also includes dates from the academic calendar, and it's very important to know the dates from the academic calendar. If you end up needing to drop a class, you want to do that while you can still qualify for a refund if possible. So the dates for those different things are different depending on how long the session is that you're enrolled in for that class. So for a 5-week session, you only have 4 days to decide you want to withdraw from that class and be able to get a refund because it's only 5 weeks long. So it's a much shorter amount of time you have to decide that than if you were in a 14-week class. So the key thing here is that you want to log into your Canvas account and your VCCS email account regularly. You want to do it daily if possible, just to make sure that you stay on top of everything and that you don't start getting behind. Also for the online classes, if you haven't logged into Canvas and submitted at least one assignment, and I think it's by that last date to qualify for a refund, you will automatically be dropped from that class. So just be aware of that. And again, that timeline is quick if it's a 5-week class. So if you think you have a week to do that first assignment in a 5-week class, you might be surprised to find out that you've actually been dropped before you even got started. And then you can try to get re-enrolled, but that's sort of a hassle. So it's easier to know up front that you just need to log in on that first day, if at all possible, and get started. All right, so the place that you can find a link to the academic calendar is on your My LFCC homepage when you log in. You just click on academic calendar and it will take you to the academic calendar page. So you always can see what the most current dates are because those dates are subject to change. So you want to know where exactly you can find the correct dates. All right, the other really big thing to remember about college is that you need to read the syllabus for each and every class you're in. That gives you the rules for the class. It generally will tell you how much each assignment is worth, when the assignments are due. So the sample that I have here, and not all professors have their syllabus laid out the same way. This is from a 5-week developmental math course, and it breaks down and shows you in each of those 5 weeks what you're expected to do in order to be on track for successfully completing that course. So each class will have something in the syllabus that sort of walks you through what your assignments are, when they're due, how much they're worth, and other rules that that professor has for the class. Some professors are very specific about what to put in the subject line when you send them an email, and that could be because they have filters set up on their email that route their emails and they only look at emails that are set up exactly that way. So you need to read that and understand it. That's your responsibility. Again, this isn't high school, so your instructor will not always go over all the assignments that are due because they've given you that information and it's your responsibility to know it. So it's definitely a good idea to review the syllabus on the first day of class, write all the assignments in your academic planner so you can see what's due when and how much work you have to accomplish each week in order to stay on track. The other thing it can show you, if you put all of that in your academic planner, you can see which weeks you have a lot due in a lot of your classes. And so maybe you need to see about cutting back your work schedule that week, or see if you can work ahead and get some of that stuff knocked out early so that you're not so bogged down on that one specific week. The other thing is on the syllabus, your instructor will tell you when their office hours are, and a lot of them are now being held over Zoom. But if you have questions or if you're not understanding something, that's the time to get in touch with your instructor, and they set aside that time for just that, to go over with students anything that they might be struggling with and to help them. But again, if this is an instructor in a course that's very important to your future career, office hours could be a good time just to start to make that connection with your instructor because they know about job opportunities and internship opportunities in the field that you're interested in. And they might be able to help you get one of those because they can be very competitive. So the professors are more willing to put forth the effort in perhaps writing a recommendation letter for a student that they know and trust, and you build that trust through having these ongoing interactions with them. So again, the key that you want to do is to make sure that you get your homework and your projects submitted on time, that you don't start falling behind. In the end, if you choose not to submit an assignment, you're choosing to receive a lower grade in that course. So this really is all up to you, and you have the ability to do well, but you need to take the responsibility and take the steps that are required to get there. There are other things that you have free access to as a student, and one of those is free access to Microsoft Office. So if you don't already own Microsoft Office or have it installed on your computer, I definitely recommend, and this is a great time before classes start, just go on to your Maya LFCC homepage and download it. You go under Student Technology Resources, and then that will take you to a screen that has General Computing Resources. So you would go under that to download Microsoft Office 365. It says it's a video, but it's not a video. It will download you the instructions for how to download it. So I think, well, you would already be logged into my LFCC. So yeah, it should all work for you. And the installation doesn't take that long. It's pretty simple. But it also is very helpful because a lot of your instructors will want you to submit something as a Word document, or they want you to do a PowerPoint presentation. So you have the access to it, and it's easy to download. If you have any trouble with that, definitely reach out to technical support, and they should be able to help you get that done. The other thing to remember is that you definitely need to buy and read the required textbooks or any other course material that's listed on the syllabus. It's going to be very, very difficult to be successful in a class if you don't have these resources. So if you have financial aid funds available at the bookstore, make sure you know how to access them so you can buy these things and have financial aid cover it. The Fauquier campus also has a small textbook lending library. So if you're interested in seeing if we have the textbook that you need that you could borrow free of charge for the semester, send me an email and let me know. I'll take a look and see if we've got it. We also have a small fund that we're able to purchase access codes for some students. So again, if you have a need in that area, reach out to me and let me know, and I'll see if I can help you. You can also use the backward planning that we talked about earlier to break down the complex projects like a research paper, which is everyone's favorite, into smaller steps. So again, you would work backwards from the due date, and you would think of all the steps you need to take to get there, and then how much time is each step going to take. And so then you can get dates that are sort of interim due dates for each of these steps to make sure that you stay on track, because it's easy to get derailed if you have a really big project like this. So if you can break it down into smaller steps with some deadlines for each step, and you put those in your academic planner and just keep working through it, then the project isn't quite as daunting, and it's a lot easier to get to the end successfully and without a whole lot of stress. So while we're on the topic of research papers, it is one of the most dreaded assignments, I realize, for most students. The key to writing a low-stress research paper, in addition to breaking it down into smaller tasks, is organization. So one great method to use for this is to get a manila file folder and you glue envelopes to the inside of it. And then you label each envelope with a topic that you want to cover as part of your research paper. So this one is about a certain animal, the habitat, the diet, the life cycle, enemies, protection. And then you always have one envelope to keep track of where you got the information from so that you can use that for your bibliography. So what you want to do then is once you have your manila file folder with your envelopes glued in it, you use index cards and you do your research, you know, from books or periodicals, or magazines, wherever you find this information, and you take one sentence notes on the index cards and you make a note of the reference source. And then you put that note card into the envelope where it belongs, whichever paragraph, topic, area that it's about. So then the reason you only write one sentence on each card is that helps to prevent plagiarism, because that forces you to reword it in your own words so you're not just copying it straight out of the book, because a lot of instructors will have you put your paper through, you know, a plagiarism checker. So you definitely don't want to plagiarize somebody else's work. You do still need to cite it even if you are paraphrasing it, but rewriting it in your own words can make this a lot easier and can avoid the problem of plagiarism. So then when you're ready to write the first draft of your paper, you would pull all the index cards out of one of the envelopes, and then you can arrange them in an order that makes sense. And then basically you just write that as your paragraph. So there's your first paragraph, and then you do that with your next paragraph and your next until you get your first draft, your rough draft completed. And then you can go back and edit it later and make it better. But getting that first draft is a really big hurdle for a lot of students to get through, and this can be one thing that makes it a lot easier and less stressful. So the other challenge with research papers is citations, because most people are not real good at MLA or APA formatting, whichever your instructor is asking for. But if you use the tools that are in Microsoft Word, this is really super easy. So there is, on the References tab in Word, there's a Citations and Bibliography section where you can use the pull-down menu to select the style that your instructor wants you to use. And then you just click on Create Source and you select the type of source, and it gives you the fields that you need to fill in. And then it will insert the citation for you at the correct, you know, wherever you have the cursor. Hopefully it's at the correct place. But there is a fantastic, very, very short, concise tutorial on this at the Goodwill Community Foundation website. And I'm going to paste that. I'll paste it in the text in the chat. So you can copy that and you can watch it's not really watching it. You kind of just read through it, but it's really easy. And so doing the citations should not incite terror the way they do with some students, because it does not have to be a horribly complicated or difficult process. So the other important thing to remember in college is that you really need to read all the material that your instructor assigns, or watch the videos or the PowerPoint presentations, whatever it is, but you want to take notes while you're doing that. Taking notes is hugely important. I have some students who try to write down everything the instructor is saying. You don't want to do that, because what you're trying to do is pull out the main points so that you have a consolidated amount of material to review and study for the test. So there's lots of different ways that you can take notes. Some people like outlining. Some people like doing like a graphic map where you have the main idea in the center, in the circle, and then you put boxes around the edges for the supporting points. Some people like the Cornell method. You draw a really wide column on the left side of your sheet of paper, and that's where you write the main idea. And then on the right side, it's the supporting details. And then in the bottom margin, you do just a brief summary of that entire sheet of notes that you did. So it can make it a lot easier when you're reviewing for a quiz or a test, because you don't have this huge amount of information that you have to read or study. You kind of consolidate it. And then find a way of studying that works for you. For some people, it's really helpful for them if they just rewrite their notes, because writing it by hand can help you remember it. Some people make charts, some people make flashcards, some people read their notes out loud because hearing it again helps it kind of sink in there for them. So kind of experiment with different methods until you find something that works for you. You know, and again, if you're really struggling with this, we have tutors available on campus who can help you. You can ask your professor for, you know, suggestions on the best way to study for the material. A lot of times in the back of each chapter in your book, there will be a list of vocabulary words, key terms, main points. And sometimes if you just review that, it can help you understand what that section was really trying to teach you, so that you're sure that you kind of understand and comprehend. So it's not really about memorization, it's more about you want to comprehend what you've been hearing and reading and taking the notes on. So a few other tips for being successful in college is to be professional in all your interactions with your professors and with other school staff. So you don't want to write emails to them that are like the way that you would text a friend, with no punctuation. You know what you're talking about, but it kind of runs on and on. It can be really difficult for somebody to try to decipher what you're trying to say. So there's a difference. There's different registers of language. So a lot of us in conversations with our friends use the casual register, which would be how we text or how we write an email to a friend. But in an academic or professional business environment, you need to use the formal register, which is just more structured, basically. So, so you just want to keep that in mind. You'll get better responses from your professors if you write in full sentences and it's easy for them to understand what you're asking for. You also want to stay organized. So my suggestion would be to keep a to-do list. Maybe it's a sticky note, you know, add things to it as you have more things that you need to do, cross things off as you get them done. Again, as I said, we have tutoring that's available if that would be helpful for you. We don't have people on campus doing in-person tutoring, but there's lots of tutoring that's happening over Zoom, and that really works well. So if you want more information about tutoring, you can either send me an email and I can connect you, or you can go to the LFCC webpage and in the search box, just put in tutoring, and you will get one of the options that comes up is called traditional tutoring. So if you click on that, it gives you a lot more information of how to get connected with a tutor, what tutoring is available at the different campuses, and that type of thing. Again, the Fauquier campus has a textbook and internet hotspot lending library. So if you need any of those resources, reach out to me and let me know. The other thing is learning how to tell stories logically. And this is something that, that a lot of students have difficulty with, because stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. But it can be hard to tell a story chronologically, because when we tell stories with our friends, we tend to emphasize the really like gossipy points, the really interesting parts of it. And it becomes like the emotional parts of it are what we lead with, and then we fill in some of the details later. So I have actually, I'm going to stop sharing this presentation, and we're going to take a look at a video, because this explains it really well, and it's really amusing too. So I hope that you enjoy it. I'm gonna, let's see, there we go, full screen. Here we go. This is Rita Pearson, and she's going to tell you about what happened to Jack.
Hey, Julie, we can't hear it on our end.
Okay. Then we will stop that, and I'll send you the link to this one because it really is, it's really interesting. She goes on for like 8 minutes telling the story in casual register, which is very fun and engaging. And then she tells you the story in a chronological format, which is what your instructor would be looking for if you were writing a story for them, and it's much more boring. But basically, the idea is that there are two ways that you can say anything. There's the way that you would say something to your friend, and then the formal register would be more the way that like a TV news reporter would say it on air. So that's kind of a way that you can think about it. Your professors want you to be the TV reporter and give you the concise information that they're looking for. But if you have a chance, watch that video because it's really hysterical, and it's a really good comparison between casual and formal register. So I'm sorry that that didn't work, but we'll just keep moving forward. So the last important thing to remember in being successful in college is to meet with your academic advisor every semester and ask for help when you need it. So your academic advisor can be really instrumental in making sure that you stay on track and that you're signing up for the right courses for the next semester. Because what you don't want to have happen is for you to take a bunch of courses that in the end, maybe you didn't need for your degree, or if you change your mind sort of late in the game and you had started out in general studies and then you decide, you know, in the middle of your third semester here that you want to be like a biomedical engineer. Well, at that point, the general studies program didn't provide you with enough math and science courses for you to get a science degree, which is what you would really want to have in order to be able to transfer into a biomedical engineering program. So you will probably at that point end up spending more time at LFCC to get those courses that you need before you can transfer. But if you're meeting regularly with your academic advisor, and if you have that clear career goal in mind, you can stay on track and you can take the least amount of courses and spend the least amount of time here before you move on to that next step, and then ultimately to graduation and being in a job in that career that you're training for. So the other thing to remember is that everyone here, all of the LFCC staff and faculty want to see you succeed. So, you know, if you have barriers that are in the way that are preventing you from being successful, if you're struggling with something, reach out to one of us. So reach out to your professor or reach out to somebody in student services or to your academic advisor or to me. We also have, there's a We Care page on LFCC's website, and I will, there we go. I will copy that and paste it in the chat also, because this can be a good resource if you're struggling with something that you might need. There are community organizations that if you qualify will provide you with gas vouchers if that's something that you need in order to get to school or to work. There are lots and lots of resources out there in our community that are willing and just waiting to assist. But we can't help you if we don't know that you need the help. So also on that webpage, there is a form you can fill out if you need assistance or if you need somebody to contact you for more help. There is, at the bottom of that page, a link to LFCC resources. So we have food pantries at both of the campuses at Middletown and at Fauquier. So if you have food insecurity and need a little bit of help with that, there is an application you can fill out online requesting that. But again, if you need any help with anything, we're here and we're on your team and we want to help you get through college and be successful in life. So for any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. But if not, I really enjoyed having time to spend with you, and I will turn this over to Chris.
Thank you, Julia. That was an awesome presentation. Make sure that you guys, if you're not going to stop by during Welcome Week, definitely touch base with Julie about those planners. They are amazing. I am going to put something up on the screen real quick. So because you attended today, you can submit an entry for an iPad, AirPods, or a Nintendo Switch. We are offering those. The winners will be announced on the first day of classes for the fall on August the 24th. I'm going to put that entry link up, and you can go to that today or anytime in the near future. You have until the 24th to submit it, but the sooner the better. We also have more of these series coming up, so make sure you check out the schedule on our new student portal website. Here is the link for you guys. Make sure that you go to tinyurl.com, LFCC Summer 2020. And then it'll ask you which session you attended today. Make sure that it's Julie's session that you're submitting so that we can verify that you did attend. And then you will be submitted for one entry. And if you're a new student, you can attend one more summer session for another entry. And then some of our new student sessions the week of August 17th through the 21st. If you're a returning student, you can also submit these entries. Returning students can win as well. So I'm going to leave this up for another couple of seconds. And then if anybody has questions for Julie, I will check the chat one more time. Otherwise, everybody have a great day, and thank you for attending.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck with your semester.
Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody, have a great afternoon, and make sure that you submit your entries as soon as you can. Have a good one.